Sometimes the deepest wells are found in the driest lands, and the brightest stars shine only in the darkest nights. In a village where the river sang its eternal song, there lived a widow whose heart had forgotten how to dance. Her husband had passed 3 winters ago, taking with him not just her companion, but her laughter, her hope, and her reason to greet each dawn. She was not old, yet grief had painted silver in her hair. She was not poor, yet her soul felt empty as a broken clay pot. Each morning she would wake to silence that pressed against her chest like a heavy stone. The neighbors' children would run past her door, their laughter echoing like distant thunder from a storm she could no longer reach. She had food, but it tasted like ash. She had a roof, but it felt like a prison. She had memories, but they cut deeper than any blade. The other women in the village would invite her to their gatherings, their festivals, their celebrations. But she would shake her head and whisper, "How can I be happy when my world has ended?" Days melted into months, months into seasons, and still she sat by her window watching life bloom and wither, while her own heart remained frozen in eternal winter. One evening, as rain drummed against her window like impatient fingers, there came a knock at her door. She opened it to find an old woman, drenched and shivering, carrying nothing but a worn walking stick and eyes that sparkled like ancient stars. "Please," the old woman said, "might I shelter here until the storm passes?" The widow, though reluctant, could not turn away someone in need. She welcomed the stranger, gave her dry clothes, and prepared warm tea. As they sat by the flickering fire, the old woman studied the widow's face and said gently, "You carry a great sorrow, child." "I have lost everything," the widow replied, tears falling like autumn leaves. "My husband, my joy, my purpose. How can anyone be happy when they have nothing left?" The old woman smiled, not with pity, but with understanding. "Tell me, dear one, when you look at this fire, what do you see?" "I see flames." "And when the flames die, what remains?" "Ashes." "But look closer," the old woman whispered. "The fire does not create warmth. It reveals the warmth that was always there, waiting in the wood. Your happiness was never your husband's to give or take. It was always yours, waiting to be remembered." When morning came, the old woman was gone, leaving only her words echoing in the widow's heart. That day, for the first time in 3 years, the widow truly looked at her garden. She saw how the roses had continued to bloom even without her attention, how the morning dew caught sunlight like scattered diamonds, how the birds still sang their dawn chorus as if celebrating life itself. She began to tend her garden again, not because she felt happy, but because the roses deserved care. As her hands touched the soil, something ancient stirred within her, a remembering. She started small. Each morning she would find one thing to be grateful for: the warmth of her tea, the softness of her cat's fur, the way clouds painted stories across the sky. Slowly, she began to help her neighbors, not because she felt joyful, but because love, she realized, doesn't require happiness. It creates it. She would bring soup to the sick, listen to the lonely, play with the children who still ran past her door. And with each act of giving, something in her chest began to thaw. Months passed like gentle seasons. The widow's laughter returned, not the same as before, but deeper, richer, like wine aged in oak. Her eyes, once clouded with sorrow, now sparkled with wisdom that only comes from walking through darkness and choosing to seek light. She had not forgotten her husband. His memory lived in her heart like a warm ember. But she had learned the secret the old woman had whispered. Happiness is not something that happens to us. It is something that grows from within us, like flowers pushing through concrete. The village children now gathered in her garden every evening, listening to her stories. The other women sought her counsel. And though she had the same modest home, the same simple life, her world had expanded to embrace all of the beauty she had once forgotten to see. True happiness is not the absence of sorrow, but the presence of gratitude in any circumstances. It is not found in what we have, but in how we choose to see what surrounds us. Like a candle that loses nothing by lighting another, happiness grows when we give it away. The widow had discovered that joy is not a destination we reach, but a way of traveling through life with open eyes, open hearts, and hands ready to serve. And you, dear friend, who may be walking through your own winter, remember this: your happiness was never dependent on your circumstances. It lives within you now, waiting patiently for you to remember its name. Sometimes we must lose everything to discover that we had everything all along.